All right, we've got a great guest today in Tom Traxler. I'm shocked that he's actually willing to talk to me after I looped him in to being the head coach of the Orlando SeaWolves this past season in the middle of a bunch of chaos. But thanks for replying back and joining me, Tom.
You definitely owe me one, Andrew.
It was like, do you think back at that? Where did we go to lunch? I think it was like Outback. Yeah. You know, I bought lunch and or maybe you bought lunch. I don't even remember.
No, I think I paid you my lunch because I knew it was about the only way to get compensated for the whole damn thing.
You knew what was going to happen. Just a little backstory so everybody knows. So I was helping out the Major Arena Soccer League, Orlando SeaWolves, which you were the head coach for the first season.
Correct.
And then the owner decided he wanted to be the coach. And so he was the coach in year 2. He ends up disappearing in December. He left town and kind of abandoned the team. And the league said, Andrew, hey, you live in Orlando. Can you help us out? I used to own the Tropics, the St. Louis Ambush. And I said, okay, you know, because I'm crazy. And then I was like, okay, well, now I need a coach. And so the group that we had, you know, helping, volunteering, working for the team, they were like, they kept mentioning Tom. And I met, Tom and I met, I don't even know if you remember, but we met at one of the press conferences and we were BSing around. Because I think we were both saying, what the hell is a SeaWolf?
Yeah. That's the first time I ever saw the name unveiled. I just scratched my head and went, I have the same response that everybody has. What?
Yeah.
Like everybody I ran into just went, what? Nobody kind of got it. The way I explained it, and it kind of made sense. And I went, you know what? I'm okay with it. Is that in a world in Orlando where you have all types of mythical creatures, from wizards to talking mouse to talking dogs to talking ducks and, you know, whatever else, a SeaWolf then can fit. It would fit into the world of Orlando and entertainment. And I was like, okay.
In the one spot, yeah, I guess. It's the only spot.
The only thing I was like, you do know we're like one of the farthest things from any body of ocean or sea or gulf in Florida. You call it the SeaWolves and we're not on a coast. We're like, we're hours away. We're literally hours away.
That's what happens when you move the team from Iowa. You know, it's closer, I guess, than Iowa was. But I remember, so I had like very little time to make everything happen. Like, I think we had to play 1 or 2 games before I even was able to meet with you. And so then I call you up and I think you were going out of town or something. And I was like, hey, like, can we meet before, like today or tomorrow? Yeah. Like we met very quickly. And I remember I went up to your office and just laid it out. I don't think I laid it out till we got to lunch halfway through our meal, but I was like, look, Tom, I need a coach.
You asked me, like, can you help us out? And my response is, yeah, but how? And you went, you want a coach? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that makes the most sense for helping out. Although, you know, obviously with the other things that I do with United World Soccer and being in the soccer retail business, you know, obviously I can do some other things. I didn't know if you were asking for a sponsorship. You know,
yes, everything
monetarily, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, it turned out to be, you know, the whole thing, actually.
We need not only a coach, we need to sign players, we need uniform. Like, we needed everything. It was like starting over.
Yeah. I don't think people understood, Andrew, exactly what we were facing. You know, obviously the results weren't good when we got started back again. You know, but people didn't know. And I tell people there was like, I don't know what, 10 players there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you got to figure all the most of the players wanted to leave. And then the league set it up where any team in the league could take any of our players. So of course the top half of the roster gets devoured quickly. And so, like, I just remember, like, when we were meeting and I was like, I literally had nothing to offer. there's no money, no player. Like the player budget was like, I mean, guys were making maybe $100, maybe $200 a game. I mean, it was something I don't even remember, but I know it was. Everyone was like, no, you know.
That's literally, what we were facing, Andrew, was no. And those that did stay had my ultimate respect, because they chose to stay and fight for something that they knew was going to be, to say an uphill battle is probably diminishing the feat. And we were signing players with little to no indoor experience. Some with indoor experience that couldn't find a team, but players that were considered valuable were snapped up. Now, I will say I'm very proud of a lot of the players we had, because I think quite a few of them have now found homes in MLS. You look at guys like Tello. Tello's now with Baltimore. He proved himself to be a good player in this league. You look at Jeff Michaud. Jeff Michaud's being picked up. We've had lot of.
Where's he ended up going?
I think he's going to be in Baltimore as well.
Nice. So a lot of guys, yeah.
Yeah, you look at the guys we had, and they came in, and it was okay. We might not be the best team, and certainly we're behind in terms of being prepared for a season. But it gives you a chance to have a platform to do something for yourself, to make a name for yourself. And a lot of players did and showed their value. And I'm so proud of them that, number one, they stuck through it and battled, and it shows their character. The one thing it shows in those guys is the character that they had, and how much they were willing to fight and dig. And now some of them, like I said, Armando Tello, he's, and Jeff Michaud, and I mean, there's so many others that are now finding homes in this league. And I'm nothing but proud of them, and proud of the fight that we put up. And really, if you look at it, we were rounding into form. I think that wins were coming. We had some good games up in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee Wave. We had some other close games with San Diego. We were starting to turn into a good team. The addition of Corey Adamson to, number one, the coaching staff and the playing staff helped the whole organization tremendously. I couldn't say I don't have enough good things to say about Corey, and him coming here in the situation that we were in and helping. And I had known Corey since he was a 9-year-old kid.
It was so crazy. It just goes to show how small the world is. I mean, I had Corey on the show early on, and we were talking about that too. It's like, he came to an open tryout in St. Louis, just an open tryout. And, he became, the fan favorite there, and good guy. I definitely think he did a good job, assisting you. And I think you did a good job allowing him to. I mean, that's, you didn't have an ego and be like, hey, this is my team. Like, we talked about it. And you were like, whatever will help us the most.
Yeah.
And I think it helped.
When you look at professional sports, people are proud, competitive people. And everyone does have an ego. But I think when you get into an organization, the important thing is that you put the ego aside. You have to. And in the situation that we were in, there was no time for it. The time was to do anything you could to get any asset you could to help this team get competitive on the floor as fast as you could. And it didn't matter if it was my idea, your idea, Corey's idea, Jeff's idea, Dudu's idea, whatever it didn't matter. It was us. It was all of us together trying to make something better. And I think we all wanted to experience winning. We didn't want to lose. We're proud people. And to lose,
we were all competitive. That's for damn sure.
To lose like we did hurt us, and it was embarrassing to us. At the same time, understood, because it wasn't the easiest of situations to resurrect a club. But
yeah, I mean, we weren't practicing, as a team as long as the other teams. Our budget was probably 25% of what it was for the SeaWolves originally, and that still was probably bottom half of the league. So we're not apples to apples. And so what we, you know, what you did, what you pulled off, I think is amazing. And then nobody knows about, like, you know, I'm dealing with, you know, the player housing. I mean, the owner of the house wants to throw the guys out of the house until, you know, the league stepped in and then started paying stuff. So it's like, I'm on the phone, like, the electric's shut off, like the water was shut off one time. And
I don't think anybody realizes about professional sports organizations and players inside. The things that you have to deal with sometimes are just as everyday as anybody else. And it all has an effect. And like you said, players are going back home and there's no water. And that's not your fault. It was a situation of the way the club was left, the state that it was left in. It was what you and I inherited and what the players were dealing with before our arrival. So there was a lot.
It was crazy. Yeah, off the field alone. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just on. I mean, you know, getting pounded, you know, it kind of wears you out a little bit. But then they're also dealing with, you know, the stuff at home. I mean, what is your kind of craziest thing that you feel happened to us this season? And let's put this in perspective. The season was, Tom came on like around January 1, right? Ended December, and the season got canceled in mid-March. So we're talking 3.5 months. What was, I mean, there's a few things that I can think of, but which is the craziest thing that you remember?
I mean, the whole thing, I can remember some fun stuff. I could tell you when reality struck me. It struck me going to the first game back in Kansas City. We were meeting players in the airport, like in Kansas City, and players going, "Hi, my name is," and introduce themselves. And the next day, we were going to have to take the floor and play against the Comets. And then, you know, we took a lead in the first quarter, short-lived, but then it kind of the wheels fell off the bus shortly after that into the third quarter. The second half, we were just so unfit. And I remember Dudu coming over to me and he goes, "We haven't trained since December." And it hit me at that point. Of course you haven't. Nothing had happened. The owner operator ran away and left everybody in a lurch. There was no training going on. Players were disappearing. The roster was shrinking.
We had no practice facility until you came on.
There was no practice facility until, you know, locally Kieran,
call in a favor,
agreed, thankfully, and what a good guy, and you know, great organization at XL Soccer World, agreed to let us train there. And so we had maybe a training session or two, and then players were joining us in the airport. You know, I remember meeting O'Dane Sinclair and meeting DJ Dennis Jackson, and you know, players were meeting us in the airport. And that's the mentality of this whole thing really just came down on me with that comment that Duda made. That's when reality really hit me. I gotta say, crazy was probably the year before. I've told a lot of our travel stories from the year before.
That can't be worse than the travel we had this year.
It was.
With Mexico and Baltimore?
Listen, well, I'll tell you what, that was crazy. That was crazy. So start
with last year. Tell me about last year's, because I don't know those.
So let me tell you, I would tell you, last year I felt like the song "I've Been Everywhere" by Johnny Cash, and that was just in one trip. I remember going to play Kansas City. We were going to play Kansas City, and we flew out of Clearwater, Florida. So we had to leave Orlando, which has a beautiful airport. And if that's not good enough, just down the road 45 minutes away in Sanford is another nice little airport. So we have two airports in our vicinity. But we're going to go catch a flight out of Clearwater, Florida. Not even Tampa, Clearwater, further on from Tampa, to go to play in Kansas City. But we're not going to fly to Kansas City. We're going to fly to St. Louis. So we leave out of Clearwater, fly to St. Louis, to get cars to drive what's it, 3 hours?
3.5. Yeah.
3 hours to go play in Kansas City. Then when we fly back, we're flying back to Sanford. And I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, wait a minute. We have an airport. Why can't we just fly? Here's an idea. Crazy as it sounds. Can't we just fly from Orlando to Kansas City and then back to Orlando? No.
It's too easy. He saved $78 though. Total.
I'll never forget last game of the season, going to play we're going to play Milwaukee, last road trip of the season. I get told I'm in a travel group with some of the players, and we fly to somewhere in Illinois. It wasn't Chicago. It was like, I can't even remember. It was somewhere in Illinois. Again, we're playing in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. And I had to fly with a group of players to somewhere in Illinois. And then I was told that when we get there, go to the rental car desk and pick up the cars and drive 8 hours to Milwaukee. We go to the rental car desk. The rental cars are there, but the credit card didn't work. So here's me and Gordy Gerson putting down our credit cards to reserve these cars so we could drive. And then Chris and the owner or his other, Barry, I don't know if Barry was an owner, but Chris and Barry and a couple of players, they flew direct to Milwaukee. I could have killed them.
Oh, man.
If homicide were legal, let's say
there would have been a few times.
I'm like, I hate driving anyway. I cannot stand driving for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Another one of the crazy trips was we went to Kansas City first. We had to play Kansas City, and that was like 7:30 kickoff on a Saturday. On a Saturday night. And the next day,
Milwaukee early game.
Milwaukee at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, Milwaukee does that shit on purpose too. I know they do.
Oh, so here we are right after the game. So you're leaving the Silverstein. I can't remember Silverstein.
Yep, Silverstein. Yep.
By the way, Kansas City has probably one of the best arenas in this league.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Just how nice it is and the size of it, and it's probably one of my favorite arenas to go to in the entire league. And I enjoyed Kim Runtved and second, honestly, I never once got to know too many other people, but good players and good organization. Jeff Husted was there. Good organization in Kansas City. But you leave Kansas City at like 10:30, and it's 8 hours drive from Kansas City so you're overnighting it. You're literally driving all night. So here's our equipment manager and other people and her friend, and like we got friends of people driving these little Nissan, whatever they are, these little SUVs off to Milwaukee overnight, pitch black, freezing cold. And then you get to Milwaukee, and this was one of my first times in Milwaukee, and I'm told we're staying at the Ambassador Hotel. And I was like, and it wasn't until later that someone told me.
Don't Google that. Don't Google.
One of his victims. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, and I think I
cleaned the room. Don't worry about it.
I stay in the room below it. Like I'm in literally the room below where it happened as I looked it over. I'm like, this is not. I got off the floor. I got off the elevator. There's like pot smoke smell all over the place. And I'm just going, this can only happen in this league. And of course we were awful in Milwaukee. I mean, we could barely move. And then I get sent to fly out of Chicago right after the game. And then the team came back, and I probably, I don't know, flew into Jacksonville and drove back to Orlando. I mean, the travel stories are
it was crazy this year too.
This is true. These are true things that happened, by the way.
Well, this year, so the way we had to do it this year is I had to go find the flights, submit it to the league, and then the league would book them. And then you know how that goes. They wait a day or two, or they wait a week, and then there's not enough flights on a specific plane. So then we're split up a few times. But I remember the one that was crazy was when we went to Mexico this year. Because if you remember, that was a trip you could not make.
Right.
So we had Corey Adamson as, the fill-in coach, and since he was your assistant and a player, and he is flying. Where did he come down? He flew down here to fly with the team, or he forgot his passport.
Yeah, remember that? He didn't have his passport.
Yeah, so he forgot his passport. His wife, who, man, she's a keeper. She flew to Arizona with his passport so he could go from Arizona to Mexico.
Yeah, she literally he bought her a ticket to hop on a plane in St. Louis to fly to meet him in Arizona. And then she flew straight back home to St. Louis, I think, to give him a passport. And the only reason that the airline let him on the flight, because remember, they weren't letting him on the flight.
No,
you didn't have a passport because of the connecting situation. You weren't getting on the flight. The only reason he was allowed was because she was meeting him there. And if she wasn't there, he was done. And he was stuck in Arizona. He'd have to make his own way back to wherever it was. He was in St. Louis, Orlando, back to wherever it was he was going. That was, and then the trip to, I think, again, it was our last trip probably to one of our last trips to Baltimore.
But even before that, though, like the Mexico trip, we had somebody get, their passport stolen. We had a couple other people kept coming up. How many guys did we travel with? Because it wasn't many.
Tozer.
Yeah, Tozer.
That was Tozer. Tozer shows up and he goes, and he'd gone to a local store to pick up a few things for the trip. Somebody broke his window, took his bag with his boots in it, his passport, and he's like, he can't go anywhere. He's stuck. Yeah, I mean,
we didn't have a full roster there, and I thought we played damn well, though. Like,
we did. I thought the guys really took the whole us against them mentality. I usually got on one of our younger players, Abdullah Azulbaidi. Missed one of the easiest finishes ever. I still haven't let him live that down. But I was really proud of the effort by those players in that game because it was an easy trip. I think the bus they had that was driving around had bullet holes in it. They took pictures. They literally showed me like the bullet holes that were in the bus.
Well, we were like, we're not renting cars on this trip. Let's just hire a company to make sure we know exactly where to go. And
at least they didn't take him to the places where the bus got shot up that trip. At least that didn't happen. But then the trip where we had to go to Baltimore.
That was the worst, I think.
Where our flight was canceled. We get to the airport in the morning, and our flight, there was mechanical trouble with the plane, and they canceled the flight. And we couldn't get on any other flight anywhere. We tried every other the league was working with us. Finally, I want to say it was after 12. And what
time did you get to the airport? Because it was an early flight.
Oh, no, yeah, we were at the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Because it was like an 8-something flight.
And then the lines were, I remember, because I had everybody pissed off. They were blowing me up. I know I was on the phone with you all day. I was like, shit. Well, everybody's like, just cancel the game. Cancel the game. We're
like, how could you give us? So finally the league, they worked out a thing. We had to fly out of Tampa. So here's a car service. And then we're already after 12 noon. We haven't even left Orlando. Here's a car service taking us to Tampa. I think we caught a flight out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to Baltimore. Their fans were picking us up at the airport. Their fans in their own cars were picking us up to drive us to the arena. We were trying, and they were going. The real absurdity was they were going, hey, can you hurry up? We need to get this started. I'm like, because they didn't start the game until, I think the game was supposed to start at 7:30. It didn't get started until close to 8:45. Yeah. But I'm like,
what do you expect?
Just landed. You've got to give us a second to put a uniform on. Can we please just put a uniform on?
It was a perfect example, though. Typically, the rule is you travel the night before.
Yes.
And since we were being funded by a group of owners in the league, it was, we had like a $175,000 budget from January till the end of the season. So this would save us probably $1,000 in hotels, maybe another $500 in per day, whatever. At the end of the day, it probably saved us $2,000. ended up costing us probably an extra $10,000 because of the flights, and we had to fight to get the refunds and then the car service over. Then we get the guys there. Everybody's dejected at that point. Nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to get hurt. And it's a shitty situation to put us in, and I'm the middle guy. So the league is telling me what to do, and then I've got to convince everybody else to go along with it. And it was rough. It was rough, but the guys played, which was great. And, I get it. I mean, the team's not going to let up, but it's like, shit, man, the other coach could have controlled the game a little better and not ran. I feel like they ran it up on us.
Yeah, it got out of hand. But again, I've always said it's their job to win games. It's our job to try to win a game. And
yeah, no, I agree with that. That's why I'm torn with that, but it's like, damn, dude, we pulled this out of our asses to help you guys. It would have been easy just to say we're not coming.
Yeah, and the one thing I could say is there was no quit in the players. Again, it was another night where everything just went against you, but I was proud of the effort that the players put out and their mentality, because honestly, there wasn't a complaint from them. It'd have been easy to complain, fold up tents, been angry, sour, it'd have been easy, but they really didn't. And I also want to say I appreciate guys like Phil Salvaggio and all the guys that stepped up to help.
Yeah, Shelley and Lane.
Shelley.
Yeah, those, and Mike Zimmerman up in Milwaukee. I mean, those guys, without them, the team would have died, Yeah,
there wouldn't have been a season. And they stepped up to keep it going. So my admiration and my thanks to them, because they didn't have to do that. And it was an expense. It's money that they've not gotten back and probably won't get back. It's just, you think about that. It's a lot of money that somebody just threw at something to get no return.
And they knew that going in. Like, it's like, hey, we're going to throw in, I want to say it was right around the 175,000, maybe slightly more, slightly less. But, that's still a chunk of money to help the league out. Basically is what they did. That way the schedule didn't have to change and, nothing had to change. And to be honest, I mean, I think if done properly from the beginning, I think there could be success here with it. And that's the frustrating part. And I think you agree with me on that. Location and just having proper staff and then doing things the right way.
I think it's a lot of things. I think you're right on the money with a lot of it. With everything you've said, and I would throw in marketing. The one thing that I've noticed in going around MASL for 2 years is a real lack of marketing in the markets that we go to. I wouldn't know that there is an MASL team in those cities unless I was there to do something with it. I knew of them from a historical standpoint. Of course, I've been around soccer my whole life, so I know who the San Diego Sockers are. I know who the Baltimore Blast is. I know who the Milwaukee Wave are. Even though they're the St. Louis Ambush, but I knew the St. Louis Steamers and the Wichita Wings, the Dallas Sidekicks. You know these names from the annals of American professional soccer. But when you go to the towns, you don't see much. And honestly, Major Arena Soccer is a very good product. It's exciting. It's fun. It's built for television. No, they're not. The players aren't necessarily household names. Now, but having said that, there are players that have made their way into Major Arena Soccer League, such as Kevin Ellis, such as Landon Donovan, such as Jermaine Jones. I mean, and there's more. You're starting to see more MLS players making their way into the indoor game. And I don't think a lot of people understand that the players that play indoor, they're professionals at what they do, and they're very good players. They're very good players
from all over the world.
And indoor is a completely different game than outdoor from every aspect. As a player, you have to change your instincts from being an outdoor player to an indoor player. Things that you want to do as an outdoor player, you don't do as an indoor player. The tactic, the pressing, how important it is that your goalkeeper be able to play with their feet and be good with their feet, not just a good shot stopper. Because if you're not good with your feet, you get pressed and you'll give up lots of goals because your goalkeeper will give the ball away a lot. So the tactic of indoor is fascinating. It's fast. It's fun. There's chances. I think it's a great product. I just think it needs to be marketed. And if marketed right, I think you'd see lots of people in the stands, because everybody that came to a SeaWolves game, even if we didn't win, I'll never forget this year. We lost a close game to St. Louis. We were down by probably 3. I think it was about 3 goals, maybe 4 goals going into the final quarter. We narrowed it down. It got to a 1-goal difference. And at the end, we were all over them, and we were peppering shots, peppering the goal. Everybody was out of everybody was off their seats. They were standing. They were, At the end, they said, that was so great. We lost, but they were still entertained. They were excited. So when you see things like that, it has a chance. It just has to be marketed correctly. And if you can put it in the right venue, and you can market it correctly, and you can make the games fun and exciting, you've got a product. So there's no doubt in my mind that indoor soccer can work in a lot of markets, and it can work in Orlando.
You think it can work in a big market like this, though?
I do. Look, I think it falls in a time where not much is going on. It picks up in November. MLS is over. I mean, unless you're going on in the playoffs and deep into the playoffs, which you always hope for Orlando City and the local team. But if not, it picks up in November, December, January. So it's when MASL is winding down, MLS is beginning. So it has this. It kind of fits right in this time frame where a soccer fan needs something to go watch and do.
So what do you think you have to do, though, to attract those Orlando City fans? Because, I mean, I think that's the hardest thing, is to kind of convert some of them to come over. And maybe it's location here, but, it's always tough to get the MLS fans to buy into indoor. And I think you had a little success with that the first year with having, supporters out there. But, what do you think we could do to get them to buy in?
Well, the first thing is you have to have a product that stands on its own 2 feet. We're not trying to, or any product would be wrong to try to ride on the coattails of an MLS team or Orlando City. Don't. Those supporters, they don't want you invading their Facebook pages, and inundating them with information about another team. They're there to talk about Orlando City. You let them make those decisions on their own, but you do that by marketing your product. Mm-hmm. I think that having a local television partner would be huge. I think that getting the games televised in your own market would be massive. It would expose your brand to more people that would want to come to the game. Because let's face it, we all know that going to a soccer game is way better than watching it on television. I would rather be in a stadium than watching it on TV. So the same thing, being in the arena, way better than watching on television. But that television gives you exposure. It gives you ad space. If you're not hitting 3 main ad markets, television, radio, and print, if you're not hitting those things, you're making a mistake. If you cut out 2 or 3, you're making a big mistake. You're making a massive mistake. So I think that advertising is everything, and then have a good product. If you have a team that can compete, and I'm not saying they have to win every night or win every game. No, just be competitive.
Can't get blown out. Yeah.
No, be competitive. You're giving them some wins, or the losses are close, but it's exciting. And anybody that, like I said, anybody that's ever come to a game has never said that was awful. I've never seen it. They've always enjoyed it, because it is fast. There's chances. It's so transitional that there's usually a shot on goal just about every trip up the floor. So there's goal scoring chances every time you play. But yeah, you have to market to get the people in. And I think once you get them in, I think you've hooked them. As long as everything's right, and I think pricing everything right at your concession stands, having good merchandise available. And then
that's your expertise. So, I mean, obviously you're going to be a good partner, for that.
It is having your team be consistent, because I think the hardest thing is if you have a group of players and fans identify with them, and then the next year it's a completely different group, that's tough. I think that fans buy into, and they start to learn to love and support players and a team. Not to say you're consistent every year, but they want to know the team. They want to know the players. I also think that MASL gives you a chance to do something that here in Orlando I watched when USL came in. And I got a chance to watch this twice, and it's been two of the most rewarding things in my life. I was alive living in Tampa, Florida, when the Tampa Bay Rowdies came to Tampa. And I watched a city fall in love with a team. And the Tampa Bay Rowdy players were more popular than the Tampa Bay Buccaneer players at the time. You can ask anybody. There used to be crowds of 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000 people in Tampa Stadium to watch the Rowdies play. They had this marketing campaign, soccer is a kick in the grass. They had this theme song. They had these crazy hoop sleeve jerseys. They had so many things going on. They were one of the most studied sports marketed franchises in the world at the time, owned by a guy named George Strawbridge, who was part of the Campbell Soup family. And it was amazing to watch the city fall in love. Then I'm here in Orlando, and Orlando City shows up. And I was asked to be a part of their broadcast team in USL. And then I was taken on to be I was the initial broadcaster with my partner, Jeff Radcliffe, my broadcast partner, Jeff Radcliffe. We moved from USL to MLS and did television and radio. And I watched a city fall in love with a franchise again. But one of the things that they really did well that I think any MASL team can do, and I think they do as well, which I love, they allow the fans access to the players. When they have those tables set out and the fans can come on the field they can come on the floor after the game, kids can run around, kick a ball, meet the players, get autographs. They know these guys. They become friends with these guys. And I think that's what these supporters want. When Orlando City went to MLS, that changed. It had to change. It had to. I'm not saying that they did that intentionally. There's things they could no longer do that maybe they wanted to do, but they couldn't do. And I think that's an advantage to something like MASL. These are players that you can get to know. These are guys you begin to think of as family. And because of the way you build your club in MASL, the supporters become your family. They start to feel like they are a part of the organization, and they should. And I think that's how you go to build something special.
What venue you think in Central Florida? I mean, do you think downtown or UCF?
Look, you'd love it to be the Amway. That would be right now the best arena in major arena soccer if you could play in the Amway. But when you do that, you're competing with the Orlando Magic, with the Orlando Solar Bears, with concerts and other events that go on in that arena. I don't know how many dates you'd have to play with. Plus, that arena is certainly not cheap. I don't know how much you're looking at, but it would be expensive. I personally think that the University of Central Florida,
they got a great arena.
It is a fantastic arena. It's a beautiful arena. They can cut it down to seat from anywhere from, I think, 10,000, but you can cut it down to 5 very easy, which
perfect.
Is perfect for MASL. It fits. I know it fits because they've played arena football in there. Yep. So you fit arena football in there, you can fit MASL in there. Not now, obviously, with the current situation with the virus that's going on, but it is the second largest enrollment of any public university in the country. So you're talking
tons of growth out that way too.
Massive student body that would want to come, that look for things to do. So there's some. I think there'd be little things you could do to change colors, maybe name, to identify a little more with that audience. But you're also into East Orange County and bordering Seminole County. I mean, you're right on the border of two big counties, Orange and Seminole. Seminole has 400, I think it's like 500,000 people, and Orange County has 1.393 million people. So you're on the border of two big counties, and you're in a place where you have a lot of families with discretionary income, big youth soccer clubs in that area. So when you take all
a little easier to get to as well.
Yeah, it is. It's close to everybody. The arena where this SeaWolves played was just too far away in Kissimmee, just too far away. You got a Friday night game and people are trying to get off work, and you
not
going
getting
to
there.
the bike is impossible. So I think it was prohibitive from people coming to games. But I think that UCF would be the logical home. It's for a visiting team. It's 25 minutes from the airport. You've got a couple really great hotels that are right around there. You can put them in. You've got all kinds of
plenty of food.
You've got plenty of food and places for them to go and eat. So I think it would be the best place to put it. And I do believe that it can work here in Orlando. I know it can work here in Orlando. If I look at it working, it worked here with little to no resources. Let's face it, there was little to no resources ever for the season.
Yeah. I'd say ever. None.
Ever. Even the first year. I mean, you had somebody who was trying to do it all on their own, and they never had they didn't have a VP of ticket sales, corporate sales. Like he was doing everything on his own, and I can't knock his sales in the first year were good as in the top four.
He was a hustler, that's for sure. But I mean, you need people. Like that's the key. And I preach this all the time. If you don't have staff and proper staff, I mean, the tickets aren't just going to sell themselves. I mean, the product's great and all that, but it's not, build it and they show up. It's, you have to work your ass off, and, everything has to fall in line.
Let's drop this in. So I would love to do it. And I think doing it with you, and I think we can get the support. I think there's some local people. And I'll tell you what, I already know the coach we go get. Not me. Not me. I would help.
What would you be, just the GM, or what would you?
I'll find a role. I'll be the assistant coach, GM, merchandise guy, whatever. I'll tell you what, go get.
Who's your coach?
Danny Kelly. Danny.
Damn good coach.
If you're listening right now, Orlando's a beautiful place to live, my friend.
Who wouldn't want to come to Florida? I mean, come on. We've been to Baltimore. The crime there, that's where Leah's from. It's like she doesn't even want to go back, and she's from there.
Look, I have nothing bad to say about anybody's city. I'm never going to knock anyone's city. That's just
ours is better.
It's not my way. What I can say and what I can talk about are the things that Florida and Orlando, Florida would have to offer anybody and their family. The weather, number one, is beautiful year round. You could be going to the beach on Christmas Day. That's fact. You've got so many things to do. You've got, if you love to play golf, you can play golf all year round. You got beaches on either coast, beautiful beaches. You've got major world-class attractions. You've got great sporting offerings, not just from MASL, but you have NBA, you have hockey, you have MLS. Then if you go down the road and you want to go to Tampa, you can watch the NFL, you can watch the NHL,
baseball,
you can watch MLB. So look, Florida has so much to offer that usually when people get here, they don't want to leave. So
give us a call, Danny, and we could talk more.
Danny, we could put together you, me, Andrew. We could put together one hell of a team here in Orlando.
Oh yeah.
And if you're listening, Danny, give me a call.
Well, that's a good place to end our chat, and we'll have to have you come back once we are launching that thing, hopefully with a new name.
I'm telling you, you don't be surprised to see Orlando back in MASL. Maybe not this year. Maybe not this year, but next year. And I think the league faces some very tough times coming up this season. I do. I think they face really tough times. And my hat's off to all the owners. I wish everybody the greatest success they can have facing these tough times when they start. You don't know if they're going to have supporters in the stands or not. And, running any professional sports franchise is a business, and it's not cheap. So a lot of the expense may fall back on these owners. And if they're brave enough and willing enough and generous enough to put their money in and keep these franchises going, to pay their players, their staff, their arena costs, insurance, travel money, league fees, everything that you see. Look, I can't do anything but hope and pray for all of their successes. And but I know it's going to be a very tough year ahead for As for
This
all,
year would.
listen.
We need more time anyway. So
Yeah.
2021. There you go.
That's what we're shooting for. Danny, don't take a job until 2020. Just wait.
Right.
Wait, Danny. Just wait.
We can get them on board now. We can start doing clinics and get them out in the community, and
Got plenty to do.
you know. Now, thanks again, Tom, for joining me. Let's grab lunch later this week.
We're gonna do that. Sounds good. Thanks for having me. What a pleasure.